Hello everyone, I'm Shruti Kumtekar, Marketing Manager at Cloves. Thank you for joining us in our Cloves monthly webinar. Today we will be discussing UI/UX design best practices in self-service portals. When it comes to improving employee experience and providing self-service, design comes at the forefront and becomes extremely important. Our agenda for today, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to go through housekeeping, talk about Cloves, followed by the presentation, and finally Q&A. This webinar is being recorded and you will be able to access it later. For Q&A, you're on mute. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A section in your Zoom control panel and our panelists will answer them. If you have any questions that are not directly related to the webinar, please email me at shruti@clovesing.com or sales@clovesing.com. Our social media channels are listed here, and you can access our previous webinars at our Cloves YouTube channel. A little about Cloves. We are a ServiceNow partner since 2011. We're based out of Santa Clara. We are a full ServiceNow shop with 150 plus customers and close to 50 consultants. We have been executing projects globally. From a services perspective, we provide end-to-end services. Our focus has been on customer service management and user portals, HR service management, as well as kiosks of late. Our panelists today are Michael Fernandez, Senior UI/UX Designer, Service Portal Architect at Closing, and Louis Guerra, who is the VP of Solutions and Innovations at Closing. With that, I'll hand it over to Mike. Mike, looking forward to this webinar.
Thank you, Shruti. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, to begin, for our attendees, you don't have to do anything, but just watch the screen. Stop. So, what did you see? You see, I know you're on mute, but answer along in your head to questions I'm asking. What did you see? Do you know what you were looking at? How did it make you feel? Was the information on the interface too busy? Was the colors that you looked at, did look professional? Well, congratulations. You just participated in a 5-second usability test. It's what we use as designers to help gauge the audience's first impressions of a product. Hi, my name is Michael Fernandez. You call me Mike. I am the Senior UI/UX Designer, Service Portal Architect here at Cloves. I have over a decade of design experience working with startups, mid-sized to corporate companies with the objective to just help problem solve, to achieve great wins through visual design. And I was able to increase conversions, creative tactics for e-commerce websites and email campaigns. Currently here at Cloves, within a span of just 17 months, I was able to successfully design, implement over 50 plus service portals in IT, HR, facilities, enterprise, and also was able to help launch a kiosk app. Today's agenda, we're going to cover these points. We're going to talk about self-service, followed by what is UI/UX design, Cloves design methodology, followed by just best practices. We'll take a deep dive into the UI/UX design best practices. We'll do some user cases, followed by a demo. So without a doubt, self-service, it's been around for a long time. We're talking about ATMs, self-service gas pumps, car washes, vending machines, from banking and shopping. The thing is, we're finding answers, and that's, it's easier than ever. The main advantage of self-service is that it works automatically. So instead of waiting on hold, at a company, employees can quickly log in and log in their own tickets from an online portal at any time from anywhere. So this is what employees are saying when they're using a self-service portal. it solves issues. I mean, take a look at this. 90% of employees, they're expected that an organization, offers self-service portal. 3 of 4 prefer to solve their own issues, while 73% of employees, they want the ability to solve products or service issues on their own. On the flip side, companies are noticing as well when they have a self-service portal that they're saving money. The cost effectiveness of self-service portals in their organization, they're saving money. So if you're looking at here, approximately a cost per contact, we're looking at saving like $12 per call center technical support, $6 call center customer service for a representative to speak, and then $5 of web chat. So web self-service can reduce costs by as much as $12 per call. Adding self-service to the company also you could see that 1.3 million in an annual savings. So I pose this question, right? How does your employees feel about using your company's self-service portal? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. 55% of employees are having issues. Simply, if the self-service portal is not easy to use, then your employee won't use it. So for these reasons, this is where UI/UX design is most valuable, and we're here to help. So, why is it such an integral process to self-service self-service portal success? Well, we have to look, what does UI design mean? It means user interface design. It's what you see to interact with the self-service portal. We're looking at visual user interface components, that address different touch points on and how users navigate. So we're looking at UI components, the interface. So what's UX design? Stands for user experience design. It's the process of enhancing user satisfaction with the product. So by improving the usability, accessibility, and pleasures provided in the interaction with the product. It involves the human's psychology component and technical fields which relate to like datas and numbers. UI/UX is so important in your design process. I mean, it's to improve and provide a positive experience for end users with the goal to get employees to use it and solve their issues, as well as resolve business problems. So let's take a look here at Cloves. We adhere to our design methodology, which is, it's a collaborative effort, with employees, customer service, and stakeholders. We examine, ideate, create, and we improve. So we're able to bring forth employees, their most frequent asked pain points, as well as try to align with business goals to troubleshoot for issues that arise on their instance. So let's take a look and deep dive and examine. So here, this is where, again, like I said, we're actively listening. We're discovering and we're asking questions. We're trying to find the problem. Here in the center, we're collaborating, and we also look. We get to know how users are actively using the self-service portal. Where do they stop? Where are they questioning things? We look at the nomenclature, the company's language, the culture of the business, and ultimately, does it make sense? Is this portal cohesive enough to understand where you're going? We review companies' analytic data, and then we ask questions, from the agent level, like how many tickets, are being, received quarterly, and how are they being solved? So based on this, we try to fill out these issues, the frequent asked questions, and we try to solve them and try to find a way how we can automate this in the portal. Next step is to ideate. This is where we explore insights to form and prioritize a strategic plan to impact objectives. So again, we provide prescriptive guidance. We stay true to out-of-the-box configurations based on the platform. We're trying to minimize the use of customization code on the platform. It's just that it's just seamless. We don't want to tinker with the pre-existing formats of the platform, the coding. And then we look at realistic expectations and we try to solve them. And we all do this through a whiteboard discussion. And then this is where we pretty much create, right? We build the plans and features through interactive digital and physical design prototype solutions through wireframes. So we support the whiteboard discussions. We create wireframes to figure out how this experience is going to be, where this experience is going to take you when a user clicks on buttons and does it answer their question. And then we do user testing. We send it out to different people within the organization to see if it fits. If not, we go back to ideate, then we create, and then we user test. Once that's approved and we're good to go, and it makes sense because we definitely have to have something out there that's ready for development. So this is pretty interesting. 26% of users who install apps, they use no more than once. And why is that? Let's look at best practices. You see, a user's visual journey, it can affect the mood and create trust. So let's take a look at best practices in UI design. See, as you can see, we look through simplicity, visual hierarchy, navigation, consistency, and so forth. So let's take a deep dive at these best practices. Simplicity. We have to maintain clarity. Less is more. We have to maintain clarity by understanding and designing for users' main goals. So we make use of automation, design of minimum amount of conscious and cognitive effort. Visual hierarchy, just to ensure that the page is communicating as effectively as possible. So in Western culture, we read things, right? From top to bottom, left to right, and how our eyes read the screen. So what we need to do when it comes to visual hierarchy is group and content architect these information and put them in places that are most important. Usually if it's important, it has to be at the top, right? And then we just arrange accordingly from top, middle to bottom. Navigation. So many navigation exists to help us find content, and it should be simple and intuitive. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We use web conventions, right, that we're so used to. Users should know where they're at and where they're going and then where they have to be. So by providing navigation through the form of breadcrumbs or mega menus, don't be shy to use hamburger menus if you don't know what that is. It's on a mobile device, it's those 3 lines. You can use that also on a desktop to be able to display appropriate information, of course, or if you want to hide certain sections to free up real estate within your interface. Consistency. Consistency will make your design better, easier to use, comfortable with when employees visit. Employees should feel that information on the portal is arranged with logic, information, and that they know how to get it. Users tend to apply rules, experiences outside of self-service portal, and so they bring that expectation to the portal. So we want to eliminate confusion and be mindful. We don't want to show different ways on actions on how operations are represented, right? ensuring that users do, they don't have to learn new representations of each task. So in this example here, you'll notice inconsistency where it says home about services. They're not consistent. I have no idea what to do. But if we use the bottom format, it's pretty simple. We can target what we need to at a glance. And this is like a menu. Home about services. We know at a glance what it means and we can click on it. Accessibility. So accessibility, so we want to be able to enable people with disabilities to perceive, to understand, to navigate, to interact, and contribute to the portal. We have to be mindful of the color choices that we use, because sometimes certain colors that we put onto our layouts, it may not translate very well. People that are colorblind or visually impaired. Also, we want to be able to label our images. This is more on the coding side, but to be able to put labels, meta tags. So in the case of someone that's using, an agent, an AI agent to scrub through the page, it can pick up those words and it can say what it means. Best UI design practices for conventional design. Conventional we have to increase familiarity by finding traditional forms and most use common solutions. So make use of automation again. Design for a minimal amount of conscious and cognitive effort. Credibility. So credibility is basically trustworthiness of a product. We know that we go into a self-service portal. We know it's a portal. It's labeled, hey, how can we help you? Now we have to back it up and say what it does. So by design, or user-centered design, it's a collection of processes which focuses on putting users at the center of product design and development. So we account for users, their requirements, their objectives, and feedback. Scalable. Does the layout, does it span and render as it should across mobile, tablet devices, kiosks, or displayed? That's very imperative now that we have many devices and even like watches, iWatches for that matter, to be able to have your design to fit in that orientation and be usable. Okay, so let's look at best practices in the user experience design. Here's a bird's eye view. Okay, so 3-click tap max. So employees are going to be very frustrated when more screens are required, to get to where they want to be. So let's keep this at a minimum of 3. We want to respect users' decisions, right? Users need to be able to shift lanes. So no matter what channels they use, whether it be the portal or a phone line or an email, it should be seamless experience. If it should feel like, it shouldn't feel like an entirely different experience if they click on, from the portal and it links out to somewhere else and the branding is different. They're going to get lost. So when an employee, when they can't find what they're looking for and they need to speak to a human, it's advisable and advised that we have to include a phone number on the portal for them to talk to somebody, just someone that's human, because you never know. There could be numerous of times where they're trying to search for something and they just can't find what they're looking for. They really need this out and they want to be able to speak to a human. So include a phone number. Okay, need escape hatches. So this is pretty interesting. So the thing is, Have you ever had like a confirmation once you've completed a task, and then it gets sent to you via email, and you want to reply to them, but you see that it says, please do not reply. It gets pretty frustrating, right? You want to be able to figure out more information about this thing that you submitted. So by allowing the user to reply is just a great way for that connection. Again, you don't want to put a hold on the experience of the user to be able to talk to somebody, to be able to reply. When you end up, when also in the knowledge article, like let's say you're trying to go through the service portal, and then you find a knowledge article that somewhat kind of helps, but it doesn't really answer that question that you're looking for. And then you have this prompt that says, well, do we answer your question? And you know clearly that the question wasn't answered. One tip that we can do to give that human quality is based on that user's action. If they click on something and it says, did we answer your question? We can have a human, like a modal that pops up that basically says, I'm so sorry, we obviously have room for improvement. Click here and a live human being will assist you. Or if you'd like a phone call from a human, please enter your phone number. We can call, we can call you, and our humans will have a complete record of your query, issues, and failed resolutions. So the idea is just to give that human quality element to the user to let them know, hey, we're here for you. You can contact us. Okay. Well-arranged knowledge base. So the point of building a self-service portal is to allow the employee to find concrete solutions and find answers to their troubles, right? So every content produced, whether it's a how-to article, a video, or infographic, it must be easy to understand. So especially in part when dealing with technical topics. The instructional content that is written must be well organized, jargon-free, and straightforward. The solution is to explain complex topics in simple terms. So work closely with the key people in your organization so they can create accurate content. Live chat. So cater to your employees with the preference, with this preference. Some employees prefer email, others phone, but statistics show that use live chat are more satisfied when their employee self-service experience is solved through using live chat. Monitor and update. Self-service can be set and then forgotten. Specifically, every time you set up a process, you need to monitor it, regularly. So look at the analytics, qualitative and quantitative data. It can turn into usability studies. And then from there, you can identify the issues, occurring on your portal, and then implement a feedback form, from your employees that would, pop up, once they have a successful, open ticket to track how their experience went. To ensure that every feature works correctly, self-service isn't just, the wave of the future. It's the reality of the present, so embrace it. Your customers already have. So let's look at a user case. This is for a semiconductor company. It's an IT self-service portal. Pretty familiar with this. And so the idea here is they had a wealth of knowledge and they wanted to be able to showcase this and present it that's easy for the user. They also have a service catalog. So this is the design that we came up with. We use the branding guides. As you can see, we're using hierarchy, visual hierarchy. Right now, we have the search bar on, way in the middle. We have announcements on the red bar, as well as articles on the right. So it gives, the idea of simple, clean UI design using best practices and laying out content. Here's a bird's eye view of the experience from the top left to the right. The second on top, someone makes a search. There's a drop down. It gives you some examples, or it gives you, based on your search query items. Third screen, there's there's a live chat. Fourth, you have a Knowledgebase landing page. So overall, this was definitely received very well. It was very intuitive, and they were very happy. User case 2. This is for a medical technology industry. This was an HR self-service portal. So what we see here is a clean UI. We use their branding guides. And up front, what we did, they had a set of forms that they were already set. And so based on the user, the profile, and their location, as well as their role, we're able to present the forms already up front. You have the option also to view their open cases, their closed cases, FAQs, HR links. But then again, it's just a very clean UI experience. So here's a bird's eye view of how everything looks and the experience. This one also had the option of English of a country setting, and also language selection or selector. Okay, so let's demo. So what we have here is a built out service portal, what you just saw. And everything is as it seems, as it's presented. The cool thing about this is it's responsive. So you can view this as a tablet, or a mobile device. We have announcements, we have area for knowledge. So this is how a knowledge-based landing page would look like once they click on knowledge. As it starts to load. And we categorize, we could look at the categories on the left. There's a multi-level category system here. And you can basically click through and it'll give you the knowledge article on the right. On the service catalog page, you're able to look at all the services, and you'll be able to scroll through or look through the pages, the pagination. And my stuff. So this is cool. This is a great way to see all of your tickets or all the incidents, all the actions that you've created. Here's a bird's eye view under my stuff. Again, we put a little animation to give some visual interest as you start to engage with the interface. And you're able to look at the queue and look at the status of where your ticket is. You could also communicate with your agent via this activity bar. So again, it's just a real intuitive way. The whole experience, it does, and it says what it needs to do for Service Portal. And the ability to live chat. We've also put that into our designs. Great. Sorry about that. So that concludes the demo. Here's some additional information here. If you want to see more samples, if you want to get in contact with me, we could definitely look at the experience that you have currently and figure out a way how we can help improve that experience. And that concludes my presentation. We're open to some questions if you have any.
Hey, thanks, Mike. That was a great presentation. I think it was great to see, like in numbers, the benefits and cost savings of self-service portals in organizations, as well as all the best practices for improving employee experience. So as Mike mentioned, if you have questions, please use your Q&A section, and we'll take those questions. We are having one question. What is the typical timeline of the project?
For designing, we typically, so based on the requirements, we go through a couple of stages. We go through the wireframing situation. It could basically take up to, depending on, once we get the approval, it could be up to almost, probably a week. It could take me up to a week, depending on getting the information up front. I should be able to.
Yeah, this is Louis. I think the timeline, it depends and varies on the type of portal we're presenting and we're building. The design in itself can take roughly from 1 week to several weeks. It depends on how many pages or different types of widgets that we're looking at, including as part of the overall functionality. So on top of the design, we also look at for functional ways to improve that experience. And, as Mike mentioned, all the design aspects is there, but a lot of that also revolves on the different types of functionalities that we have to bring in when we start building out these widgets. And so it really kind of ranges. If you're doing a more of an enterprise page where there's an IT, HR, facilities, and any other departments involved, that timeline tends to be a bit longer. One of the things that we know is when you're doing an IT portal, the thought process on designing an IT portal is hugely different from an HR portal. The HR, they don't think like IT where, here's the request form that you want to do. HR is a little bit more personal, where we want to provide a lot of information, a lot of content on the knowledge base. The last thing to do is to submit a case from an HR standpoint and get that question. If it can be answered through Knowledgebase, you can provide that information immediately. And this is, as ServiceNow is moving towards AI and chatbots, all of those content that you have will be, very important to use, because that's the way that you'll be able to provide that answer immediately for your end users. But we have to look at that depending on the type of portal we're designing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Louis. Another question was when the attendees can get this video. So give me about a couple of days to do some editing, and then I'll have it posted on our Close YouTube channel, and I can send you the link too. Next question. If we upgrade from Jakarta to Kingston, do we need to make big changes, or would it be transparent? What do you expect from customers, and how much involvement is needed from customers?
No, typical upgrade process on the portal is there isn't any major fixes that's involved. We've been doing portals since, the ServiceNow came out with content management. And if the portal is done correctly and it's built in a way that it continues to follow the way ServiceNow would build it, typical upgrade process, it does not impact the way the portal behaves. It should be completely transparent. Now, the only caveat is if ServiceNow makes changes to some of the classes, they make changes to some of their Angular calls, that could have some, some small modifications, whether if it's a CSS change or whatnot. That's the only time we've seen it, have issues when there's an upgrade process. But typically you don't see that. And if anything, the only thing that would be affected would be some of your content, some of your catalog forms. We know that, when you move from CMS to Service Portal, a lot of the UI macros aren't necessarily working on the portal when you present it. So one of the things we look at is how do we fix that from understanding what that macro is supposed to do, and then how do we build out a widget out of that. So that's kind of some of the things that you want to look at when you're doing an upgrade. But if you're already on the Service Portal, you're upgrading to a newer version of ServiceNow, that Service Portal shouldn't necessarily be affected at all.
Okay, as a follow-up question to that, Louis, how much involvement is needed from the customer? Seems like not a whole lot, right?
From an involvement standpoint, we typically like to have all of the steering committee to be involved, so they're the first look. We don't want too many people making decisions. As Mike mentioned, when you're creating a portal, everyone's eye view is different than the others. We know that different personas, different type of personality. If you're one of the, if you're familiar with the old type of portals where you use a lot of navigation menu, you tend to go to the navigation menu. So when we build these designs, we want to account for those that are using navigation menu, those that are using search, and then those are the ones you just like to click around. And typically, once you get through the approval part of the process, that's when the steering committee who's involved will start bringing in additional users to get to understand that you want to get some of your high some of your high customers, important customers, to say, hey, check out this portal. What do you think? Is this something you'll use? Is this do you find everything that you normally do? Do you find everything that you're looking for? So hopefully that answers that question there.
Okay, thanks, Louis. Next question, what kind of data or analytics do you look at to get insight about usage?
The typical data that we look at are how many calls or how many tickets are submitted. If you happen to use Service Catalog, how many times do people actually use Service Catalog? With the majority of times, many organizations will come from, well, almost all of our tickets comes from a phone call, or they come from an email. And then how do we solve for that? How do we shift that balance so that you get less phone calls and less emails, because you want to promote a service portal. But the main data that we look for are the typical counts of calls that you receive on a day-to-day basis, for a period of time, number of emails that you get, and then you process through your incident management. How many times your users use the Service Catalog? If you're a Service Catalog, if you're somehow presenting them some sort of portal, whether through the back end, homepage, catalog homepage, or through some sort of old CMS, what's their engagement in that? Those are the type of data we look for. And the other thing too is what we also look for other portals that you have internally. You may have a SharePoint site, or you may have intranet sites. What do they look for, and what kind of usage do they get out of that? Because we want to see, we want to compare and use that data to analyze whether or not, are we going to put a design out there? Are we going to, create a design that's similar to some of your intranet sites, so they don't feel like, the customer is leaving, your organization's web portal, structure. So, we look for those data points.
Okay, thanks, Louis. Does anybody else have any questions? Please go ahead and use your Q&A section. If you have any other pending questions, you can always send an email to sales@closing.com or shruti@closing.com. So I think let's just give it another minute or two for any follow-up questions that people have. Thanks everyone for attending our Cloves monthly webinar, and thank you Mike and Louis. That was great, and see you everybody for our next Cloves webinar. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.